Good evening. And tonight's topic, we're going to talk about why does perspective change over time relating to the Philippines and relationships. And pretty much a lot of stuff differs from when you first get to the Philippines. Because one of the things I found when you first go there is a lot of the time you're in tourist mode. Everything's new, everything's something fancy, something you haven't seen before. Everything's fantastic. And when people warn you about things not being what they seem, a lot of people get very, very defensive. Um, it's why these days what you find is people like myself will quite happily give somebody, they ask for some advice and then they ignore it. We're quite happy to just go, okay, fair enough, and just walk on. Because the reason being is a lot of people, when they're in that holiday mode, they're defensive on stuff that often they already know. Um, I've seen it with people where their partner's cheating on them, and you're saying, "Look, we know she's cheating on you. Not it's not just one of us. Several of us seen your wife with another guy. This sort of thing." And they go, "No, no, it's a friend. It's this or that." It's like, okay, but then 6 months down the line, the guy's back. He's effing and blinding, blaming X, Y, Z. His whole attitude's changed. His whole life has changed in the Philippines. It's the same as when some people go there, want to do X, Y, Z, and then they start hitting a lot of hurdles. I've seen it with like charity organizations where you start to see the corruption. So your view on a lot of things change. It sours it. You're not as happy as you once were relating to it. You can you can see things aren't as nice as they were. You can see that a lot of people want to make money off it. You're sitting there, you're going, well, I want to say do a charity project. And you go, okay, well, do a charity project. Yeah, but to do that, I now need to have a NGO set up, a business set up. Okay, so you've got to have an NGO. What else do you need? Oh, well, you've got to have the NGO, but you've got to have five Filipinos as board members. You've got to have one of them as a treasurer, one's a CEO, etc. You're losing control of it at day one. This is where things start to go wrong because what starts to happen is as you lose control of it, people start to to make money off it. It can be an event that's because there was something that happened in the airsoft even because you think airsoft tournaments not big money. I would say a good operation, a good setup for a tournament, there's probably you can make 300,000 pesos. There is that sort of money in airsoft. If you get a calculator out, I'll do this off the top of my head. Well, I'll say off the top of my head, it's actually my phone right in front of me. Um, when we were doing a airsoft tournament over at it was Northern Cebu, there was 46 teams. Now each team's got at least 20 players. So that's 920 people. Now everybody's paying at least 1,000 pesos. Well, we actually paid more. I can't remember. I think it's more than that. But like that, that's just under 1,000,000 pesos. So no joking, because our team, when I say 20 players, our team actually had 40. Because we took it in turns. It was a 2-day event. So there is a lot of money in these things. And the thing is, there was people in there to make money out of it. And obviously, there was a guy that actually set the airsoft up that was into airsoft for the right reasons, but he started losing control of the thing, and he could see there was problems with the money, and he did something. I can't really talk about it because he got in a bit of bother himself, and they made him retract what he actually said. It was that serious, but um, yeah, the he could see that his good idea was working. It was, he did it with all the best intentions, did it for the right reasons. And then other people start to take control of it. And this is where if you start having other people involved in it, um, because you have to, you can start to lose control of the entire business, the entire venture, the entire charity, whatever it is. This is why a lot of businesses on a larger scale struggle in the Philippines. I mean, I know some people said that they've got a call center, for example, but when you look into it, they don't even own the call center. It's owned by Chinese or whatever, because they're not allowed to own it, but B, they're just a face on the front of it. But getting back on tangent, a lot of this stuff changes over time because of the experiences you have in the Philippines. Because when you first go there, you're in holiday mode, and somebody says this could happen to you. This is crap. This is a lot of people just go, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You have no idea. And the funny thing is, when it does happen, they don't come back to you and say, Matt, I was wrong. I should have took the advice, or whoever it was. They often disappear. It's the same when businesses fail. A lot of people set up businesses, and when they fail, they don't talk about it. Or if they do, they may turn around and say, oh, the brother-in-law was stealing, this was happening, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, the business failed because the person investing in it didn't keep control of it, or they didn't know enough about it. They put too much trust in other people. Trust is probably one of the biggest things people give away too easily in the Philippines, because you got to look at the way other people treat each other. A lot of the time, you will see it the way people will say, for example, when they see street beggars and stuff, where you're more engaging with them, a lot of people just distrust them completely, or they don't want them anywhere near their property because they know they steal, all this sort of stuff. Where as a foreigner, you often see the good in people, even if they haven't shown you anything yet. So you have to be aware. This is why some of this stuff happens, because you're going in with a positive mindset. Everything's new, everything's shiny, everything's different, and over time, that gets whittled away a bit, because you'll have, I know some people have had some relationships go sour recently, and you can see they've changed. Their attitudes changed towards their partners, but also the Philippines in general. I know, for example, Scott Ingram, if you look at his latest video where he's talking about not going back to the Philippines now, he's obviously had some changes over the time he's been there. That's pretty normal. That happens to a lot of people, but often they just disappear quietly. Where I think more people should actually turn around and just be honest with what happened, what their experiences were, so other people can learn from it. Because at the end of the day, otherwise it's just a continuous cycle. I was just left a comment for somebody today that over 6 years had sent money to the Philippines for illnesses and everything else, and found out the brother was actually a boyfriend. That's very common. That's so common in the Philippines. I've seen people go to Western Union with multiple payment slips with the boyfriend, because to them, the people that do it, I don't say this in the broad sense, because there's a lot of good Filipinos out there, because this is the big problem, is you have good Filipinos and some very, very bad ones. Um, the good ones wouldn't do it, but often the negative stuff is because people experience negative stuff and talk about it. The good stuff, nobody really cares about somebody going, hey, you know what? I'm happily married, blah, blah, blah. But they hear about the guy that got scammed out of this, or had something happen and in a bad way. It's in the news, it's in the expat groups, etc. But people generally being happy doesn't get talked about as much, which is another thing. On the positive side, you get things happen which open your mind to things, because you can become less consumer orientated, because you find that your partner, the families or whatever, are less consumer orientated themselves, but also you find that you don't need as much stuff as you did in the West. You don't spend as much money on that sort of latest camera gear and all that. It's all nice, but at the same time, you may not bother with it. Um, I mean, it's like guitar shirts. I buy them from Gitano, but I've got about 26 of these plain white V-neck shirts because they're pretty cheap, done about 180, 200 pesos. But they're ideal for the Philippines. You get sweaty, just throw one in the laundry, get another one. That's why I've got so many of them. But the point being is, you're not looking at I've got to have a Nike shirt or something. You're just looking at, I just have something that's practical. And I think that's it. A lot of stuff is simply practical in the Philippines. You're not trying to keep up the Joneses. You're not trying to be something you're not. And I think that helps with moving there and living there. Where things seem to have the biggest disputes, mind, are things like when you see things like the Hobo and JLB creating things out of thin air, um, because they're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, at the end of the day, for me, I'd rather help people than constantly look at creating an argument out of thin air. So you do get that side of the things where people do get cranky and they get run down, they get irritated by the things around them. But that's why, if you get that, just go back to the US, UK, or whatever for a month or something, and you're thinking, I wish I was back in the Philippines. And that's the thing, you've got to gauge the changes that you have over time, because not everything is as great as it once was. Oh, sorry, I've just noticed your comments, guys. Donny Helton, how much does it cost you each year to live there? Your visa extensions? I actually have residency in the Philippines, so mine's about 300 pesos a year. Norwegian polar bears here as well. Thanks for answering that for me. Visa fees on average a month, 2 years, about $45 a month. Yeah. So, because the thing with me is I'm not up to date on visas, because like I said, because I have residency, I don't really bother with the tourism stuff anymore, because I still have my residency. I've still got my residency card even now. Um, but yeah, it's that's one of the things I did find a bit of a headache there when I was first there as a tourist, is having to go to the immigration every couple of months, because you might be somewhere that doesn't have any access to the immigration center, because you might be off doing something remote and you got to work your way back just to be there for that appointment. Otherwise, you get your fine. I think it's 1,000 pesos a month. It was last time I remember. It was closed on the bank holiday or something. It was closed for the holidays, and it went into the next month. So I ended up paying 2,000 pesos for late payment because it was a holiday. It went over the two because it was sort of like on the 29th, and when I managed to get in there, it was a second or something. So I ended up paying 2,000 in fines. Michael Rodriguez, can I create a fake onward travel ticket? You could do. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but I've never even been asked for an onward ticket. Um, I've always bought a cheap one for like Tiger Airways or something, just a dirt cheap, like $20 ticket or something, just so I've got something. Uh, JB Melmax, my SRRV will be $360 a year. So yeah, Donny Helton, there's a few people answering it for you. And I know some people may wonder why I actually say what's in the live chat. Is because they don't become comments afterwards. So if it disappears out of the live chat, it's gone. You can go anywhere. You don't have to go back to your home country. It's just to leave the Philippines. So you could go to Hong Kong, you could go to Malaysia, Singapore, wherever. Just the cheapest ticket you can buy. Yeah, because you don't use it. You just throw it in the bin. Once you've got through the old airport stuff, you don't need it. I've never been asked for one ever, but there'll always be some time where. Um, that's what I say. Look for Tiger Airways. Tiger Airways is pretty cheap. You also check out Cebu Pacific and some of the other little ones. Tiger Air there's Tiger Air. Dragon Air does the flight between Cebu and Hong Kong as well. So you just shouldn't you just hunt around them and look for the specials, because sometimes they'll have like a $5 offer or something, some crazily cheap tickets. But like I says, you only need a ticket to leave anyway. You're not actually going on the flight. That doesn't need to go to your home country. You just get the cheapest ticket you can locate. Um, yeah, yeah, perspective. Yeah, perspective does change over time. Michael Rodriguez. I'm an American. I should just go without visa and say I will stay for 29 days. You're still going to need it for the 29 days. I mean, you could get a return ticket to back where you're going, because I think the first ticket I got had a date in advance. I think it was like 4 months ahead or something. And that really didn't really have any issues with it anyway, because it was an exit ticket, but it wasn't with the 29 days. But you can also get your visas done before you go to the Philippines as well. Remember, you don't need to do it in the Philippines. You can get if you've got an embassy nearby, you can do the visas ahead. Because then when you go to the Philippines, you don't have to go to the immigration at all. Which may be beneficial if you're doing, it depends what you're doing in the Philippines. If you're trekking around a bit, I would do that. I'd get the visa before you even arrive in the Philippines, and then it's job done. Don't have to worry about it. Um, yeah. Yeah, perspective. If you have any other questions, just fire away. I'll answer them as I go along anyway. And other people, feel free to get involved as well in the live chat. If you got other better responses, please put them in there. It doesn't even have to be a better response. Any response is good. um, but yeah, perspective changes over time. So what you find is a lot of people go in holiday mode, and then various things happen. Some people get cranky with it. Some people get cranky because they get sick of people begging and constantly asking them for money. You get they're like small irritants, but over time it sort of gets on your nerves. And that's why I say, if you get somewhere like that, it's nice to go somewhere else for a month or a week, or just head out somewhere new. Just go out of the country and come back in. Like we were talking with Michael Rodriguez there, get a cheap ticket to Singapore or something. Just head off somewhere else for a bit of a change, and then come back, because you find you're more refreshed when you come back, because it's normally there's something else bugging you, and all these things sort of stack up. Because I mean, one of the things that bugs me is this motorbike that's got like this really rattly exhaust at 6 o'clock in the morning. um Now, I'm sure when I go back to the Philippines, it will still be there. It's probably still been there since 1976. But the whole point being is, those things you're all right, like once or twice. But if you're having other things ongoing, like for example, you're doing construction projects and other things that keep you busy, so you need your sleep at night, but this guy keeps waiting at 6 o'clock in the morning. Those sort of things bug you over time. Yeah, certainly do. Um, but yeah, you've got to adapt to it. But a part of it is being aware it's going on. I know one of the things that really gets people going is when they realize they've been ripped off. Um, you know, the taxi drivers do it a lot, but at the same time, once you're aware of it, you can be more aggressive in making sure that they don't rip you off. Um, but that comes from knowing how much things cost. But at the same time, when you get, like I was saying earlier, the guy with the alleged girlfriend. I say alleged because obviously he thought it was his girlfriend, and that's the sort of relationship they had set up. And at the same time, she had another boyfriend on the side. Um, with that sort of setup, it can really leave a real bitter taste regarding the Philippines, because obviously the person that they thought was somebody else, suddenly you can't trust anybody, because you've invested time, you've invested the time, you've invested your emotions and commitment to somebody, to find that they've just used you for cash. That can have a real negative impact. And I would say, not to give up. I wouldn't let somebody get the better of me in that situation. I would say, right, I know what she did. Doesn't mean that everybody's the same. And if anything, I want to actually prove that there is good people out there. Simple as that. I wouldn't let it bug me. Really wouldn't. Uh, Yeah, Michael Rodriguez. That's why I'm going to the Philippines, to change perspective on my university life. Yeah, you'll find it makes you I would well-rounded. I would say you're more open. You understand things better, because a lot of people see poverty as not having an Xbox for Christmas and stuff like that. They don't see what real poverty is, but they also don't see a lot of the things are very simplistic in the Philippines in the sense that you have family groupings in large numbers where people congregate together and they've got a whole family environment that's still functioning. Because I think in the West we get splintered away from that. You know, you got work splits you away from it. You know, where um, family move away because they go where the work is. So you end up with a family spread all over the country. Where in the Philippines, a lot of people are still in the same areas, but also they look after each other. You know, for example, if my brother-in-law was coming to move to Spain, we would let him live in our house. We wouldn't even think twice on it because it's just the way we are. And Filipinos that they look after each other in that sense. Even with people they don't get on with sometimes, within their own family, there's still a hierarchy. There's still a family structure there, and it still functions well in some cases. Um, but that's one of the beauties of the Philippines. The family is still there. Money often distorts it. Westernization distorts it. Um, Technology is distorting it. But at the same time, there's still fundamentally things that keep the family as a family unit, and the Philippines has a lot of that going for it. Uh, One of the big plus things, and I do know a lot of people like that community spirit, because it's something that I know where my parents live, for example, it's gone. I mean, most of the houses. I mean, you brought up university there, Michael. Most of the houses in that area have been sold to as student housing. So the long-term residents are sort of being wiped out. It's ending up where it's more of a university campus than a town. It's sort of taking over everything. So you sort of lose that community perspective from the local community, and it revolves more around student life, which is like it's a limited thing in university life because obviously you've got a lot of stuff going on there, but getting out into the broader world is a bit different. A lot of things are very, very different. It's not so insular for a start. Philippines is not so insular. You don't have the nanny state stuff going on. What you have is the potential to kill or maim yourself because nobody will stop you doing most things. I've read stories in the newspapers relating to people that have been washed down waterfalls and things where they've gone and they thought it's been a great idea to go swimming at the top of a waterfall during the rain, heavy rains. And it's just like, why? So yeah, but certainly Philippines, good eye opener. The thing is, the Philippines can be so diverse as well, going all over it. I know even on Cebu Island, there's difference is in different towns have their different skill sets. Minglanilla, for example, is famous for its tailors and seamstresses. Cars famous for its shoemaking, etc. Although a lot of these trades are sort of dying out because of the China's taking over everything. The the people have those skills. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law have made me clothes. I've still got them. Because the quality is really good. Michael Rodriguez, how about engineers? There's a lot of engineers. I mean, within our family, shall we say, they just in one family within our family, there's at least three engineers in one. The father and the two sons. Um, the father works on shipping. The one son is still going through college. The other son is actually working with aircraft. He's an aircraft engineer. But then again, my wife's an engineer. I'm an engineer. So, so even in our family, we're engineers. So yeah, there's a lot of engineers out there. So yeah. Also, when I was out in the oil field, there's a lot of Filipinos out in the oil field working on in the Middle East. Because a lot of people see domestic helpers, blah blah blah, but engineering side, there's a lot of Filipinos, and I do find them very reliable. I do find that they are very methodical, because if you set process, they stick to it. Where sometimes people like myself will have the process, but we're trying to improve it all the time. So, but I find that a lot of them will just stick to what they've been told and just keep to it, which is great, because at the end of the day, if people stick to what they know, it's no problem. But myself, I'm always trying to make things faster, better, and improve on whatever I'm doing. So, yeah, but yeah, certainly there's loads of engineers. I would also say if you want to become a pilot, you can do the training in the Philippines. The guy, there was, I can't remember his name. There's an American guy that's involved with it, with the flight school. I think the son of PAL Airways runs the one in Cebu. Because the American guy I know, he's got his flight ticket because he flies for the Coast Guard. I just can't remember his name though. But you can do it a lot cheaper than it is in the West. They were sending guys to the Philippines from India to learn how to fly planes, because they take the first step on the smaller aircraft, then move up, obviously onto the bigger stuff. But obviously the flying hours are a bit cheaper in the Philippines. Certainly cheaper than the UK. But I can't remember the guy's name, not off the top of my head. But yeah, it was the son of the owner of PAL Airways. Yeah, perspective. So the thing with perspective, it can go both ways. You can have things go great, everything's fantastic, and have no problems. A lot of the time, that goes on when people are in holiday mode, or there's a lot of stuff they choose to ignore. I know with somebody I know, he paid for some family members to renovate the compound and paint all the houses and stuff before he got back home. Now, chatting with him, he's like, "Yeah, but it's okay because they need the work." And I'm like, "But you already paid for all this stuff for the last 10 years. You've been paying for them to look after the property, etc., and they just didn't do it. The gate was falling off, etc. And now suddenly you were coming home, you've sent them a load more money to do it all up." It's like, "Yeah, but they need the money." It's like, "But you paid them already. You've been paying them while you're not here to maintain it. You paid them twice basically, and you're not even arguing with the fact that they didn't look after it." Um, Michael Rodriguez, I'm flying into Cebu. Any recommendations on where to look for a nice apartment or house? Leyte. Um, I don't know anybody. I'm trying to think. Do I know anybody on Leyte? It depends what you're there for. It depends what you want to do in the Philippines. Because I mean, Cebu City is all right for city dwelling. Getting a bit of a feel for the place. Leyte, can't remember who's out there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the area because I haven't been there myself. I haven't been to Leyte, so I can't really comment on that. But it depends what you want to do. If you're just looking to experience things, I would say just get yourself somewhere as a base, then just travel around, because there's plenty to see in the Philippines, and hotels aren't that expensive. I mean, you probably probably talking about 1,200 pesos a day if you're traveling around. But if you're going to stop somewhere long term or for 3 months or whatever, like you said, 3 months, it may pay to just look around, look for something for rent, and then just inquiring about it. One of the big problems you'll find with trying to get something like a condominium, as I was talking to somebody today about it, is he was struggling to get anybody to let him lease an apartment because they want a minimum of 6 months. That's why you've got to chase the owners, see if the owners will let you do it. Otherwise, you've got to be there in person, because if you negotiate in person, A, you can get the price down, but B, you can also turn around and say, "Look, I only want it for a month or whatever." At the end of the day, you're not going to rent it out this week. At least I'm in there. I'm giving you some money. Isn't that better than you trying to sit there and wait for somebody to lease it for 6 months? Because I could be here and gone before the person they will come along, will rent it. Uh, Michael Rodriguez, I'm going to be studying my calculus and physics, but I want to go outside and be able to talk with girls that are not prostitutes. um, that's not that difficult. There's a lot of normal people around, and I'm not saying that the working girls aren't normal. I would just say in the sense that they're not in that trade. But you can go anywhere, and there's normal women. It all depends what's if you want to if you need access to good computer and stuff as well, you got to decide, do you want to go more out of the city, and you're better off getting a roaming setup because you may struggle to get internet because you haven't got an ACR and you're not in a relationship where you can use somebody else's name to get an internet connection. Um, so yeah, you got to look at the locations. Yeah, that's Norwegian, but Polymer says the malls are a good place to meet girls. Yeah, there's loads of women. Isn't there? There's no meeting women is not a problem. Half the problem is getting people to leave you alone. um, yeah, but that's another thing. That's another good perspective one is that you get approached by a lot of women in the Philippines all the time, and women are very approachable as well. You can go and talk to 99% of the population of the Philippines, not just women, but 99% of the population are quite happy to have a chat with you. The people are more laid back. They like to talk to people. So yeah, they like chatting with foreigners, certainly. Um, and I say that because that's what I was saying earlier about things like the beggars and stuff. Filipinos often hate them. I say that in the sense that they don't like them being around them. I know you mentioned Leyte actually. That's actually come up because I think there's a dump site in Mindanao, and I think the squatters there are from Leyte. I remember talking to some of the guys from Mindanao. They're called Mindanalians. But if you're from there, but they were actually saying that it's not the town's problem. Those people simply shouldn't be there because they're not from there. They're not welcome there. They don't want it. As simple as that. They don't see it as they should be there because there is no reason for them to be there because before they arrived, there was no problem. And this is why different people treat people differently. So that can be, a prime example of where you got a contrast because you want to be friendly and help people. Other people saying they should get lost because they shouldn't even be here. Because I know who was doing it recently. Somebody was actually helping people go back to where they came from because they come into the cities not making any money, but they may have some land or something back where they came from. So I can't remember who was doing it. I'm not sure it was Duterte or somebody else, but they were helping people go back to where they originally came from, their islands they come from. But one of the problems you have is, like anywhere, when you have this sort of industrial revolution, people come to the cities. Obviously, when work's scarce, people come to the cities. So you end up with a lot of people going into the cities that don't really have enough money to stay there, don't have anywhere to stay, and they have to beg or do something else. And this is why you end up with the girls that work for a living in the evenings, um, because they're coming to the cities to make some money, and often for their families. A lot of them are actually persuaded into the industry by relatives, etc. Um, Alan Daniels, hello from Colorado Springs. Hello, how's it going? Um, yeah. So one of the things I will say is, with perspective, be aware it will change over time. One of the other things I will say is, if somebody gives you advice, good or bad, or you like it or don't like it, Just say, okay, fine. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to absorb everything everybody well, absorb it, but you don't have to engage too much on it. If somebody's advising you over something and they give you the advice, the advice is free. So at the end of the day, say, okay, thanks. And then you can or not take it. It's up to you. But a lot of the time, people are actually trying to give you advice is normally from experience. They've already had some problems themselves. Um, George Vince Nevi. I'm struggling with your second name there. But obviously, you can't say it to me here on the actual live chat. So I apologize for that. Hi, George. But yeah, take people's advice, absorb it, and always look around, because the thing is, last thing you need to be doing, because I know I've seen people even arguing me. They send me some, I get some abusive emails sometimes. Where like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. But I only talk about the stuff I'm aware of. I talk from my experience and the stuff I've experienced. I talk about the stuff I know other people have had and they've experienced. So says, well, my experience is completely different, but that's fine, because I'm talking from what I've experienced and from this side. If somebody lived a different way, etc., that's fine, because that happens. That's life. At the end of the day, I'm not the oracle. Okay, George, it's Ukrainian. Vishnevy. Vishnevy. All good. Yeah, funny. I should ask Igor. Igor is my neighbor here. He's from Ukraine. Um, he would get it right straight away. Uh, well, nice to have you here, George. Anyway, so are you in the Ukraine? You in the Ukraine currently, or are you in the Philippines? Um, there you got it. Yeah. So take advice on, but like I said, the best thing to do is absorb information from everywhere. And like I say, if stuff starts to bug you, my personal view is leave the country for a couple of weeks or go and book into a resort or something. Melbourne, Australia. Okay. I think one of the guys that was working with me on RBS, but one of my supervisors is in Melbourne, because he moved over from Scotland, because I was running RBS Scotland for a while. Yeah, I'm sure he's there. Um, he's an engineer. He used to look after my data centers. But yeah, you've got to be aware that things do change over time. But the main thing is just adapting to it. Because I do find some people get really, really negative on it. And sometimes people will mention that my channel seems more upbeat in Spain than it does the Philippines. The main reason being is there's more risk in the Philippines. In Spain, it's not too bad. I mean, the worst case scenario for a lot of people here is they get on a flight and head back to the UK, or wherever they came from originally. But in the Philippines, there's a lot of risks to people that often don't get seen. Don't want to accept it, or in holiday mode, etc., and they run a lot more risks. And that's why I talk about a lot of subjects that people may not want to hear. But it's not because I'm saying, well, Philippines is all bad or whatever. It's just like, if you're aware of this stuff, you can avoid it. It's like the pickpockets and stuff on the jeepneys. They're there, and the big thing with it is they're really good at it. But like, I had that guy that rented an apartment. He got robbed in the first hour of being in the area. Now, I told him not to go anywhere until I come back, and I'll take him around the neighborhood, etc. But he took his entire budget in I think you call it a fanny pack in America, but in the UK we call it a bum bag. So he had it on him, and I must have cut it with a razor blade or opened it. But they took all his money. He had $1,000 on him. They took it, and he had a complete meltdown where it could have been avoided very easily. He'd literally got off the plane, arrived, and then decided to get on the jeepney and head up to the next town, and got robbed on the jeepney. These things happen, and the thing is, if you're aware of it, you prepare yourself for it. I mean, like, you don't take your entire budget with you. You you protect yourself from it because you don't need all your money. If you have bank cards, then just keep most of your money on the bank because there's ATM machines everywhere. But that's the whole point. If you know there's a risk of losing your money, you think, well, where's the ATM machines? It opens up another avenue to think about. That is there ATM machines in the area? For example, an ATM thing to watch for is paydays because you may find that there's certain days of the month people get paid and they'll empty the machines. I know at the hospital in between Naga and Minglanilla, on payday, there's an ATM inside the hospital. The staff empty. So the one that you actually need when you're there for paying bills and stuff, they let the staff empty all the money out of it. I I find that a bit bizarre. At the end of the day, the only ATM available, they let everybody take the money out that actually works in the place and not the actual customers of the place. They charge enough, let's put it that way. Yeah, so that's the thing. You just gotta be prepared to take on other people's knowledge because it makes life easier. Also, if somebody says you're paying too much or whatever, don't take it personal. At the end of the day, a lot of people are just trying to help each other. It's nothing personal. There's nothing wrong with having something go wrong because at the end of the day, if everybody's aware of it, everybody talks about it, it's no longer a problem. Because if everybody's talking about it, then everyone is going to avoid the same problem happening. And that's the important bit for me. If more people protected each other, there would be a lot less problems. It really would be better for everybody. It's like the same with the businesses. I did the podcast on the business earlier. With that, everybody talking about the businesses, you can start to see what businesses work, what businesses don't work, what things to avoid. Because if people talk to each other and communicate, you help each other. I've tried to say this to people before, it often doesn't go anywhere. Is the fact is, if you've got, say, a restaurant in Davao, if somebody else has got a restaurant in Cebu or Manila or whatever, there's nothing to stop you helping each other. You could probably get discount working as a cooperative for supplies and stuff. There's benefits to actually helping each other. But I often find people think, oh yeah, but maybe they'll steal my idea or whatever. Even if they were an identical business to yours, they're so far away, it has no impact on your business. That's the reality. And that's one of the things, I do find the ego stuff can be a bit of a problem sometimes. Like I said, when you get some people on the vlogging scene, they're creating issues out of nothing, or they're creating issues for the sake of creating issues just to get traffic. You're just like, what? There's a lot more to it. Do stuff that's a bit more entertaining. Find something that can help people or show people an area, or even wander around a supermarket. There's people wanting to see what the prices are. I know here in Spain, I've been asked to do the videos again on the supermarkets here because people want to see what the cost of living is and they want to know roughly what the cost of the food is. So there's a lot of stuff that you just spend time going over. Surveyor guy, they're gonna take my ideas. Well, maybe you'll end up with good ideas too. Exactly. The whole point is, if you work together, you'll find that you can end up with multiple solutions to one problem. You can also end up with people testing stuff because you may have one person that's got like, say you've got 3 Mexican restaurants, just an example, and somebody thought, we should do ice cream. Well, if one of them trials ice cream and it works, what's it hurt for them to tell the other 2 that it works? Yeah. Yeah, Outback Dave. Yeah, YouTube drama has become a toxic and childish trend. I agree, and I do try to avoid getting involved in it too much. I may put some stuff up there related to people's facts about them, but after that, I just want to move on from it. I'm not really interested in the stuff that often bats backwards and forwards because at the end of the day, it doesn't help anybody. And I know some people seem to feed off the negative stuff and just keep it rolling and rolling and rolling. I I've got better things to do with my day. Yeah. George says you still need to be careful because everyone's an expert. They are, but when it goes wrong, they disappear. Um, this is the thing that I was saying. A lot of people can be quite aggressive in their viewpoints, and I say viewpoints because a lot of time it is viewpoints over experience. Um, and then they turn around, and when it all sort of fizzles out like an indoor firework, they just vanish. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it with businesses. I've seen people setting something up, and then they just log off the internet one day. They're just not there anymore because the things were going okay. Then something happens. They find the wife's cheating, find out that there's something wrong with the business, or they've had relationship issues because of the business, all sorts of stuff. But at the same time, they just vanish. They don't go, well, that was a complete waste of time and money, um, and go the real reasons. Because a lot of time the businesses fail because people haven't invested enough, invested in the right thing, doing their homework, um, don't understand the business enough, don't control enough, and ultimately trust people they shouldn't be trusting at day one. Trust is something you build up over time. I've had people steal from me. I've had it more than once. Um, but the thing is, I'm geared up for it. Like, I'm prepared for people doing stuff. I'm always like, I've got radar for it these days because it's happened a few times. And if you catch small stuff disappearing or whatever, sooner or later they're going to try something bigger. But if you catch them on the small stuff, you can get rid of them, and that's it, out the door. Yeah, but the expert stuff, yeah, everybody's an expert in everything these days. I don't like using the word expert. That's the funny thing. Even if the asset integrity stuff I deal with, which is my actual real job, um, I don't even use expert when I talk about myself, which is actually an expert field I'm in. Even as an engineer, I've got my certificates and everything else, so I am actually skilled in those, but I don't call myself an expert because I believe um, always an avenue of more training. So there's always stuff you don't know. So that's why I don't like the word expert. I think it gets overused too much these days, where people are trying to reinforce that you should trust me. I am the expert in this field because I am telling you I am. Yeah, I hate all that. I hate it. It's overselling. It's over marketing. People should trust people because they know what they're doing. They shouldn't have to tell somebody they're an expert. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the drama stuff that Dave brought up, Dave from Australia. That's a prime example. If you get that tit for tat stuff going on, some of it's egotistical. Some of the stuff that goes on is actually people doing it for a viewing point. And the bizarre thing, I look at some of the stuff that you go through somebody's feed, some of the worst culprits for this, and you're going, what have you got to offer? Because all I'm saying is bashing other people. And if I go through it, there's no content. There's nothing else on the channels. There's nothing else I want to watch. That's for sure. Yeah, wouldn't that be better to concentrate on something like that? Wouldn't it be better to actually just turn around and say, you know what? Um, my channel's crap because I just bash people on a constant basis. Maybe I should film the area I'm in. Maybe I should try and develop something different. I mean, it's like now I'm starting a new channel. I don't know if I'll keep it in this channel yet, relating to drones because I'm going to start flying my drone around Spain. So that's going to be something else. So I look for things that are an opportunity. I don't, it's much better to be doing stuff like that. Also, old school management in forecast, plan, lead, control. Yeah. um, yeah, exactly. it's yeah. That pretty much covers it. The How about the drama is stale now. It is, and I think the problem is it's not moved on. It's not moved on to even anything more interesting on it. And I know um some of it's going over it because it's gone tit for tat, which is where it starts going. Yeah, like you said, too much. Um, there's other stuff to be doing. That's what I say. That's what I'm saying. Like going, me doing the drone, fixing the van again. I've got to find that fuel thing tomorrow because I've got a fuel blockage on it. Um, that's a bit of a pig. Change the fuel filter Saturday. Still not running, so I'm going to have to actually look at the pipe work from the fuel tank. Hopefully, it's something simple. Um, I don't want it to be the fuel pump. I don't think it is the fuel pump, in all honesty, but it's certainly not running. Yeah, but yeah, I do agree. There's too much drama going on, but that's another sign of what we were talking about with the perspective as things change over time. Because some people get bitter, they really do, and some people will push out against other vloggers because of what Can't people have their own um opinions? Can't they have their own little bit of the world? you know, the vlog channels, there are people's little bit of space. Is when people start the bashing, they start going into other people's to try and draw some sort of hassles out of it. People don't need to be doing it. I've just come from 2 drone chats tonight. We're Because we've got a few guys in Spain and the UK, and there's a guy in Australia as well was on the chat. Now everybody on there is upbeat and positive. There was nobody that was running anybody else down. It was people just talking about drones and the stuff they've been up to. For me, that's much more entertaining, because at the end of the day, it's stuff that people actually want to be doing. They've got a um, experience and interest that they all share. Much better. We're Outback Dave. We are a micro community, and they are entertaining the minority. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that's why I don't talk about it too much myself. I've sort of trying to push it away. The big problem is because I've been bashed a few times, and have actually written a fair bit about somebody specifically. And I will say it's all his own material. It's all the stuff he's done himself, but it was just to sort of show the guy is just lying, and I'll leave it at that. Beyond that, it's there. It will stay on the internet. I'm not going to keep chasing it, keep updating it. I'll just leave it there. Ben and Lauren just moved to London as an expat. Appreciate your insights and perspectives. Cheers. London's an interesting place. I love London. I do love it when I'm there. I've done a lot of work because we used to work out. Carillion's got an office in Euston, but also some of the London hospitals we look after, and some of the prisons. Brixton Prison was one of the ones I surveyed. But yeah, I do like London. It's a good place to visit, and there's some nice places. I mean, one of the most interesting survey spots I had in London was the British Museum. British Museum was an interesting place to be in, especially when you get in the bits that the public don't get to see. Yeah, but I do love London. It's an interesting place. It's a good touristy type place, but can be a bit expensive. Sterling Mad, hi all. How's it going? So, has anybody else, like when you've been at the Philippines, has you found your perspectives changed over time, or who hasn't been to the Philippines yet? Is the other question. I'm gonna just stick my tea in the microwave. 2 seconds. It's one of the downsides of talking too much. My tea goes cold. But yeah, one of the things I will say though, you will come across people that can be quite aggressive, like you've seen in the vlogging. You're getting some people that are too much. But at the same time, you get people that are often too happy and upbeat because they're the complete opposites. But that in the Philippines, you do find that happens. Yeah, Michael Rodriguez. I went to Guatemala, and I think it's similar to the Philippines. I haven't been there myself, so I can't comment. Although I may be going to Colombia at some point. My mate Andreas, his wife's from Colombia, so I might be going there at some point just out of interest. Although there's some issues there at the moment relating to the big trade there. Let's just say that. uh, yeah, Michael Rodriguez. I was there for 20 days and I got a perspective on the differences. Yeah, you find your whole viewpoint in the world can change because you see things in a very different view from what you know. Yeah, it felt like I went back to 2004. Well, you'll find that in the Philippines. Exactly. You'll find some areas are high rises, new developments, and other areas are shanties. But the big thing that seems a bit strange in the Philippines is everyone's always so happy. Very rarely do you see people run down. Everyone's pretty upbeat. Um, I remember being in Wilcon. Wilcon is like a big hardware store, and the people know me in there because when I was doing the construction stuff for our property, the renovations, I was in there pretty much every day because I'll go there, buy the bathrooms, then come back buying the tiles and whatever. Um, and the guy was the guy that was normally helping me. I was asking him how he was, and this was back with Typhoon Haiyan. And I just, how are you? And he's like, oh, I'm not so good, sir. 'Cause he's worried about his family because they were actually in later. Now that you mentioned it, um, he said they hadn't heard from them for a few days, and he was hoping that his boss would let him go home. And it's just bizarre. I was just, it's a bit of like, "How's your day going?" Sort of hello, but he's obviously that's the first time I've actually seen somebody that upset with something. Um, so yeah, but he went home a couple of days later, but because a lot of people were cut off completely, no internet, no telephones, nothing. Some places, I know. Of course, I know somebody in Leyte. A friend of mine, Chip's out that way. He's on Pilar, but he goes out that way. Yeah, he's not far from there. Um, but yeah, where Chip was, they didn't have any power back for a year. There's no phone or anything for a year. Because I think so, well, that's the thing when you get more remote, it's surprising how remote some things are. George says, I'm going to Bacolod in late May. It would be the seventh time. It's a different world to me, but I can fit into the culture. To me, it's rich in many ways. I agree. I find it um, an interesting place to be because I like the way it's relaxed. I like the fact that you can talk to anybody. I like the fact that everyone's chilled out. You can go and do stuff you wouldn't normally do. I mean, we go in basketball tournaments and stuff, but I mean, it's like I had a friend of mine, Stephen Black. He come over because his dad's Don, who's he's the godfather of my son. Um, we took him to an airsoft tournament. He's a professional photographer, and he met a lawyer at the tournament. And the next thing, he was off to the police station and taking pictures of people that had been arrested for murder and stuff. And everyone's like, "Yeah, you can go in there, take your pictures." It's all chilled out. Nobody cares, and that's what I like about the Philippines. It's up to you how much you do. If you put yourself at risk, then often the person that's going to kill you or maim you is going to be yourself because nine times out of 10, nobody's going to stop you. You will get people warn you about things. I mean, I know with Naga, where it's just south of Mindanilla, people will talk about the witches there. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah. People are serious with it. Yeah, there's witches there. I know. It's like, No, there's not. Yeah, there is. You have these conversations like Whack Whack's this this other witch type thing that goes after pregnant women. And there's a load of these, but you talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, that really," and you're like, "They're serious." But yeah, stuff like that I find entertaining because they're not real, are they? And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, they're certainly real." I know I could hear them at the window, and I was like, "It's not true." It's you said, "No, it's not. It's not true." Um, but yeah, that's the Philippines. That's the things I do find funny. I remember a girl was asking me about Dracula and if Dracula lived in London, if he was real. I said, "Yeah, of course he does." And she was like, "Oh, I'm not moving to London." Then it's like there is no Dracula. He's a fictional character. Yeah. Um, but yeah, because I remember her talking about that. And she took it quite serious, and I was just like, "No, it's not real." Um, but that's some of the innocence in the Philippines. That is some of the innocence. A lot of these stories do seem true. Outback Dave, witches are very real, Matt. I used to live with one. I can't really comment on that, but I know what you're getting at. um, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think as you get distance from old relationships, you mellow out with it as well. I mean, I'm sure I called my ex a few things when we originally split up, but these days I haven't seen her for 2 years or whatever, more than that, so it doesn't really bother me. I don't even think about it. Oh, that may even bother her even more. um, yeah, so I'm sure if you haven't been to the Philippines, you'll get a lot out of it. But I'm saying, don't let things get you down. Don't be too upbeat with things. You just take things on a steady basis and just absorb the information. Just absorb what's going on around you. Because at the end of the day, you're in a new country. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people going on around you, and it's all new. It is all new. Um, and you will some days things will drive you crazy. Other days things will be amazing, and some days you might get a slap in the face where something just really shocked you. A motorbike crash or something. Um, the Philippines, though, I think is an amazing place to visit. I think people get a lot from it. I think it makes people a more experienced person overall. So when you have a crap day, if you go back to the West or whatever, it doesn't really affect you in the same way because you know what a really crap day looks like in the Philippines. But at the same time, um, Michael Rodriguez, how dangerous is Cebu compared to the dangerous parts of Spain or your home country? Um, I found Cebu. I, there's areas people wouldn't go, and I've been to them. I mean, I used to go and have a few tanduais with the guys at the market area in Minglanilla, for example. A lot of people will not go there. They they will not go anywhere near that at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I would work at night, have a few beers, run out of beer, and then I would go down there because there's a little woman who sells tanduay, and I'll sit and have a drink with the guys there. But some of those guys are hitmen. Um, they they're fine. At the end of the day, I'm buying the drinks anyway, so everyone's chilled out. But I didn't find Cebu a problem at all. I just like anywhere in the world, use a bit of common sense, and you don't really have any problems. Really don't. Um, it's the I know up in Banilad, which is even Cebu. It's sort of like north of Cebu, heading towards the north side. A few people have been shot there over phones. They've been out in the street with a mobile phone open and stuff, and they've been shot for them. So be aware of that. Generally, I'd never take my mobile phone out in public, and then we're going out for a beer. I don't take a mobile phone at all. because there's no way I'm gonna let something be pickpocketed and only take out enough money for that night. I don't take large amounts of cash. I don't take anything I don't need. I don't wear my watch, for example. I'm not going to give somebody um, the opportunity to take something from me, which would, that you could create an issue because it's an expensive watch or something. Just don't take it. Simple as that. Um, Spain, I haven't had any problems in Spain at all. The police here are very public. There's not a day goes by we don't see at least 3 or 4 police cars. You've also got 4 police forces, but at the same time, anything that happens here is dealt with very quickly. They're very on the pulse here. So Spain, I would say, not really an issue. They're very, very proactive, and even with the anti-terrorism stuff, they're a rapid response. They got Chinook helicopters and everything for them. They're all geared up for pretty much anything. Yeah, I don't. Spain's nice. Yeah, I find Spanish people as well pretty cool. I've not had any Spanish person that I thought was obnoxious or whatever. Um, that doesn't include driving though. We get people from Madrid and Barcelona that like to beep their horns obsessively. But beyond that, no real issues here. Michael Rodriguez, I found that Guatemala was not as dangerous from the downtown area here in Florida. Yeah, well, I would say the UK. There's probably areas. I mean, in Worcester, I don't go out when I'm there. I don't go out downtown anymore. But it's. I think as you get older, you get more wiser. But people fight because they're drunk in the UK. Um, I never really seen that in the Philippines, except for this little guy that decided to start fighting with me on a Manny Pacquiao night. Um, Manny Pacquiao had won the boxing, and this little guy approached me and decided to have a fight with me. But for me, it was like I just sort of held him down, like because it was about the weight of a 10-year-old child. So even though he kicked me in the face, but at the same time, I just put him down and told the guys to take him home. He's obviously drunk because my concern if I punched him, he might not make it home. um, I was home by 9 p.m. latest in Guatemala. Should I do the same in the Philippines? It's not really an issue. See, the thing is, the thing in the Philippines, it depends where you are. I mean, in the Philippines, going home late out in the middle of nowhere, the big problem is stuff on the road, wild dogs, people walking with no light, walking in the dark and stuff. If you're in a vehicle, you're more likely to have a vehicle crash than anything else. So beyond that, not really an issue. Outback Day, but how do you take holiday snaps and all the vloggers have their cameras out and expensive like cameras, etc.? It it depends where you are. If at the end of the day, if you're in the market on a market day, just be aware that if you're taking your camera, only take your camera and limit what else you're carrying. I've been caught out here in Torrevieja. Torrevieja, I got pickpocketed when I had my Canon out. I got my Canon camera. I went down there to take some photos, and I got pickpocketed. They stole my entire wallet. The joke being, the police I got the wallet back 6 months later at this address that the police didn't even have. That's how good the Spanish police are. Yeah, you just got to be careful. I mean, if you're doing it around near the roads during the day, probably not too bad. But if it starts to get dark, that's when the people start coming out. But it all depends where you are. I mean, if you're in an area that's notoriously rough or whatever, then you could have some problems. But like I was saying with Banny Lad, if you're getting a taxi or something, and the guard to get you a taxi, because then you're not out on the street. They get the taxi to you, because obviously the guards are armed. George, have you run with the bulls? No, and I don't intend to. I do wonder why people do it. I know it's historic, etc. But yeah, I'll leave that to the Spanish. I might be doing the tomato festival at some point, but yeah, I'm more into the tomato festival where everyone throws the tomatoes. But beyond that, no, I'm not going to run with the balls. I don't fancy my testicles being impaled. Outback Dave, I'm going to Manila in June, hopefully. Good. That'll be good experience. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Like I said, it'll be a completely different new environment. And like it'll be a bit of a change all round. Yeah, I'm sure you enjoy it. It's I mean, I'm not a fan of Manila, which is why I sort of say that because I've been in Manila a few times, and we went to see the band Creed in Manila, for example. But also we've been up there for the British Embassy, and what else have we been there? Been there a few times, but no, I don't stay in there too long. I find it a bit um, overpopulated for me. But that's my own choice. At the end of the day, mate, you'll probably love it because obviously everything's new as well. For me, I've got something similar in Cebu, but without the density. The density is there in Cebu, but not the same as Manila. Manila seems much busier. But yeah, I'm sure you'll love it. It'll be a lot. Certainly be an experience. Yeah, I'm just thinking, what else we got left to say? Anybody else want to say anything? There's another thing I just thought of. The other thing that changes perspective is family. And this is an important one because a lot of people will go, I'm moving to the Philippines. I'm not coming back. I'm not I'm going there to retire, whatever. They then get in a relationship. Michael Rodriguez, I need to be honest, I need to sort my blog out because the big problem I have here in Spain is that my kids are notoriously loud and they use my internet bandwidth like no tomorrow. So anything I do on these, I have to do when the kids are in bed or it's a school day. Where's CW joins us? Hi Matt. Yeah, how's it going, Wes? Um, so I have to be. It has to be like silly o'clock. Like here at the moment, it's 1:30 in the morning. But I actually started doing podcasts earlier. I've only just. It's been one after the other because I was on the Spanish channel earlier. Um, but yeah, I think what I'll do is I will update because I've got my own blog. I think I'll update it with times on there because one of the problems I've had because the vehicle's been a bit of a pain this week as well. Trying to get things organized and scheduled because I was supposed to be with Andres on the weekend to do some of the stuff related to immigration to Spain. But I couldn't get over there because the van had broke down. So it sort of threw everything out, along with going to a couple of restaurants at the weekend. We did go at the football. If anybody, I took my son to the football. We went to Torreja football on this weekend. Um, so we did something else instead. But it gets like that sometimes. Flamo7, will you be living in Spain for good? Possibly. But I'll still be going back to the Philippines. At the moment, we're 90% through the immigration stuff for Spain. Once we've got that last 10%, April and the kids are residents. Once that's done, we can then go back to the Philippines on holiday, probably go for 2 weeks to a month, probably a month, and then come back to Spain. And then we'll start getting into getting set up properly in Spain. I didn't expect the immigration stuff here to be such an Achilles heel to me because it sort of restricted a lot of stuff I could do. Because moving house, we want a bigger house, bigger place, etc. But at the same time, when you have your residency and stuff in Spain, when you move house, you then have to reapply for everything. You have to take all the documents back in again. So we're in the apartment we're in. I'll probably end up buying another apartment and still keep this one. So we'll live in this one and rent the other one out. But at the same time, I do like Spain. It's a great country. I know it has got its issues, and I know if I was reliant on working locally, it would drive me crazy because it is difficult to find a local job. You have to create it. You know, it's much better to actually create your own business here because a lot of the jobs that are available are cash in hand because they're avoiding paying their taxes, etc. Or they're seasonal, or they're contractual. There's a lot of it's difficult on the coast. Flamo 7, do your kids miss the Philippines? Yes, they do. I know with Zoe, when we go up anywhere near Alicante, she wants to go to Alicante Airport. She wants to go back to the Philippines to visit. My son, not so much. The thing is, they're different ages with different perspectives, because they're like chalk and cheese. I mean, my son likes burgers and all the crappy food, where my daughter won't touch any of that stuff. And in the same way, my son doesn't like healthy food. They're the complete opposites on so many things. It's because my son's a mini me of me, and my daughter's a mini me of my wife. So we have our own versions of ourselves in miniature. West CW, what airline did you use to go back and forwards to the Philippines? I normally use Cathay Pacific out of London, but obviously I'm coming from Spain now, so I have to have a look at that, because it's not something I've looked into, because I normally come out of Heathrow. The reason I do that, because the flight for Cathay Pacific goes over Russia, so it doesn't stop. If I go with Qatar Airways, it'll be fuel on the way, and I know with there's a few of them, they don't go all the way through, where I can even get PAL out of Heathrow, although PAL's not my favorite airline. Yeah, I like Cathay Pacific. I do. I like going into Hong Kong as well. Hong Kong's a nice place to stop over. I like their airport, but also you can hop onto the old express train and get into the downtown area if you want to. I mean, my brother-in-law is in Macau as well, so we might stop over in Hong Kong for a couple of days as well this trip. Yeah, because we can go and crash with their place. Let the kids run riot in their apartment for a bit. But the thing is, I am hoping to get the call center up and running again as well. If I can get that running, doing some of the stuff relating to the surveying or teaching the English, that will also give us more reasons to go back to the Philippines, but also a budget for it. Because at the end of the day, if it's generated out of the business as an expense, it's not too bad. Because obviously we're going back 2 or 3 times a year. It can hit you in the wallet a few times, because there's 4 of us, so it's 4 tickets. Because my wife won't go back without me, so it's a case of it's all or nothing. We all go at the same time. But I want to get it to the point where we can come and go as we please, have the setup there in the Philippines and have the setup here in Spain. But the stuff in the UK is also starting to blossom. One of the things that's happened with Carillion's recent changes is several of the people in there, which are pretty major players within the corporate world on the facilities management, we're starting to work together. So there could be contracts coming through on that side as well. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, I rate Cathay Pacific. I rate Qatar Airways. Malaysian Airways is really nice as well. Those are there was another one as well. Etihad was okay as well. I'm trying to think what other one was. There's one more as well. Korean Airlines were okay as well. I did find the Koreans a bit strange when they come out of Korea, because they were queuing before the plane was even at the window. They're already like queued up, waiting. You can see out the window, there's no plane. They're already queuing. Very organized, very, quiet, just lining up. I'm just sitting there reading my book because there's no plane. There's no point queuing up for it. But yeah, I did find that a bit strange. But yeah, Korean Airlines is all right as well. I had them coming out of the Middle East. Same with Etihad. But yeah, my wife doesn't want me going back that way. I'm quite happy to go back into the Middle East. My wife isn't that keen on it. Because the thing is, some of the work I've done before, they're high risk areas, so I don't normally tell her where I am until afterwards. So because then she doesn't have to worry about me. But anyway, that's another day, another topic. Yeah, well, what I'll do, I think I'll wrap this one up because obviously this was originally about perspective change over time, and I'll do another live chat after this one. I'll set another one up, just a general chat, and everyone can chat about absolutely anything. Doesn't even have to be out of the Philippines; it could be absolutely anything. So give me 2 minutes. I'll just finish this one off, and we'll start another one. Thanks for everyone being here. If you enjoyed the show, by the way, please remember to like, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'll end this one now, but there'll be another one back on in probably about 30 seconds. All right. Be right back.